Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to work on building a simple subcontractor selection form. This is a really useful tool if you are presenting costs to an owner, um, if you are presenting costs to somebody above you as an estimator, and you kind of just want to have a general quick review. This is also a good framework for building a cover sheet for your estimates and just getting a general idea of where your costs are if you're building a construction estimate. So let's get started. Our first thing we're going to do, and notice this isn't complete. There should be a lot more divisions here. This is really just kind of simplified so that everything can fit on one sheet for this video, although ideally you would have um, all of your scopes, including mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Um, but that's okay. Just so for this video, it's a little bit shorter, just so you can kind of see everything on here. So for concrete, if I go to the concrete tab, um, let's imagine for a second that we built our own estimate for concrete, which is good practice, and then we sent it out to bid, and we had our bidders kind of put their own pricing together. And so, without breaking out each of their costs line by line, maybe we don't have enough time to do that, or maybe everyone just kind of give us a lump sum. We can look at this very high level and notice, okay, our price was $10,100. The lowest bidder here is Magnus Toboggan Inc. at $1,500. Well, that price probably isn't going to work because they are super low compared to what our price is. And so if it's a little bit lower, if it's a little bit higher, generally that's okay. You still want to call these guys on the phone and see what they covered and what they didn't, and get a good feeling with their number before you put your name to it. But we're going to strike these guys out, Magnus Toboggan, and we're going to say that we called Sweet D Concrete. They were the next lowest. They were very in line with what we bid, and we like them as a company. We've worked with them before. We feel comfortable with their number. Perfect. These other guys are just good companies, but they're just too high, and so Sweet D Concrete wins. So let's go back over to the bid summary, and we're going to build a data validation and create a drop-down menu for our bidders. And so we're going to go over here on the data tab, go over here to data tools, and there's a button with this with these three cells. One has a check mark and one has an X'd out symbol or a blocked out symbol. It's called a data validation button. We're going to click that. There's a box here. You may not see it on my screen. I apologize if you can't. But in the box, it says validation criteria, and then it says allow. There's a drop-down menu. We're going to change it from any value to list. And then we're going to click on, there's a box here that says source. There's an arrow to the right side of it. We're going to click that source button. We're going to go to our list, and we're going to create a list of, we're going to highlight all of our bidders, including our own internal estimate. And then we're going to press enter and then press OK. Okay, and then so we said Sweet D Concrete. So now we've got this pretty nifty drop-down list. We don't have to keep skipping back and forth between tabs, especially if we build this out, we need 26 or maybe even 30 tabs, depending on the complexity of the project. We can just kind of select this from a drop-down menu. So Sweet D Concrete. Okay, now we need to add the price. And so we're going to press equals. We're going to do a VLOOKUP function here. So they're not as scary as you think. If you've heard rumors about a VLOOKUP, it's kind of getting into the realm of some of those more complicated Excel functions. It's really not that bad. You just need a little bit of practice. So let's type in equals VLOOKUP. The all caps is optional. I just like to do it so that I can stay consistent with how my formulas look when my coworkers look through my estimates, and so it's just kind of, it looks better than if it's lowercase. So VLOOKUP, open parenthesis. We're going to shift to the left for our lookup value. This is the first criteria item that we need, and so the VLOOKUP function is going to take our lookup value and compare it to a list that we're going to give it. And depending on where Sweet D falls within the list, it's going to try to find the associated cost next to Sweet D Concrete. And so let's test that out. So we've selected Sweet D Concrete. We're going to press comma. Now we have our table array. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, but hang with me here. I promise it's not as bad as it seems. We're going to select our entire table. And as you select it, you're going to notice it's saying right here, 1R times 2C. That means within this table, this is row 1, and over here on the right side, this is column 2, 2C. If I shift here to the left, it's 1C for column 1. So this 2C is very important. Column 2 is very important, but we're going to drag the entire table, press press comma, and now we need our table index number. Remember that column number 2, and that's what it is. So we're just going to press number 2, or excuse me, we're going to press the number 2. Great. And sometimes you'll have a table with 5 or 6 or 7. I've had one once with 15 different columns. As long as you can keep track of which column your important information is, in this case, pricing, that's what you want. So we want the price selected next to Suite D Concrete, and so it's column 2, which is where the price is. We're going to put a comma next to 2. Now we have the option of true or false. Or if you're like me and you like numbers, you can also type 1 for true, 0 for false. And all that means is true is an approximate match. And so if there's numbers that are close, if there's words that are close, it'll kind of try to grab them, but it may not work. And so if you use false, then everything has to be exact. The way we type Suite D Concrete, if we didn't do the data validation, it would have to be exact, no extra commas, no extra spaces, otherwise it wouldn't work. That's why we do the data validation. And now there's no risk. If there's a similar word we're typing in, it's not going to accidentally pick it up. So let's just press 0 here for false, close parenthesis, and press enter, and we're done. And let's test this out. So Suite D Concrete, if we go back to our table, was $10,000. If we drop here and click Mac Concrete Works, 11,560. Perfect, we know it's working, and so let's go back to Suite D. Next step is to build a subtotal function here in the subtotal. So subtotal is the cost of the net cost of construction. If you've seen my videos on how to build a basic estimate, this is the body of the construction plus your general conditions. So this is a small project. It's only going to cost us $6,000 to manage the project. Perfect. So let's go here and press equals and type in subtotal. And I'll explain why I like subtotal here in a moment, although it is a bit more tricky. We're going to press subtotal, open parenthesis, and then you're going to notice there's a drop-down menu of a ton of different items. There's a sum, there's a max, there's a minimum, there's a count, there's an average. It can get really cool depending on what you want to build. For our purposes right now, we're going to go with 9, which is sum, comma, and then we're going to drag the entire area and close parenthesis and press enter. And so the net cost of our construction is $38,000. Next thing we want to do is calculate the cost of our markups. And so I've already kind of pre-populated them here. Builder's risk, general liability is 1.4%. Contingency fee are kind of industry standard. And then state tax, we're actually going to calculate a little bit differently from these others. So let's press equals, shift left to this builder's risk, general liability, shift 8, which gives us an asterisk or a multiplier. And so it's 1.4 times, and then we're going to shift up to this $38,000. This cell D12, we're actually going to highlight and press F4, which will hold that $38,000 in place. And so as we drag this down, that cell C13 will drag down with it, but the D12 will stay in place. And let's press enter. I really like my control D function, which is just a control drop. And so let's hold down shift and arrow down, and then control D. And it should have copied the formula over. Perfect. Oh, okay. So I mentioned before that state tax has to be calculated differently. That's because our fee, our contingency, and our insurance for our scenario here is all taxable. And so if we calculate these all in state tax, if there are exempt items we learn in the future, we're covered. If we think that we're exempt, but we calculate these anyway, and it turns out that we're not exempt, then we're covered. But for our purposes, we're going to say that nothing is exempt here. Everything gets taxed. And so we're going to just multiply equals, or sorry, we're going to press equals, sum, open parenthesis, and we're going to grab this subtotal and drag it down to fee, close parenthesis, times, and then shift over to the left of that 5.6%. And now we've got $2,300 for state tax. Okay, last thing we're going to do is press equals back to that subtotal function. If I can spell today, let's see. Open parenthesis, we're going to press 9, which is our sum, close parenthesis. And then the nice thing about subtotal is that we can just drag and cover everything because that first subtotal function in cell D12 has a that first subtotal row has a subtotal function. And so as long as subtotals are overlaying on subtotals, they will not double count. And so let's press enter, and our price is $43,900.03. And that's all I've got today. Thank you so much.